Welcome to Beat Motel, and in this episode we're going to discuss the real reason Rick Parfitt will never go back to Paris. We're going to discuss Jarvis Cocker's Ford Cortina, and we're going to reveal the big secret behind a pair of trousers that once belonged to Damon Albarn. You're listening to the Beat Motel Podcast, and we need to warn you that we like to use words like fuck, shit, anarcho-syndicalist, butty-scruttox, angry flap, and filth biscuits. And we don't often bleep those words out, apart from because we're not complete animals. But if you understand that and you like music, then listen on.
Damon Albarn trousers is actually a surge term, which is weird.
Damon Albarn's trousers. I think they split at a gig he did at Alexandra Palace once.
Apparently, according to Google AI. His Damon Albarn's trousers are often associated with his stage antics, especially the time he dropped them. He famously dropped them in a Canadian concert.
Damon Albarn dropped his trousers. Whereas you got Damon Albarn like cheekily dropping his trousers and showing a bum cheek, and you got like people like Nick O'Veary just being stark bollock naked on stage in Brazil or wherever it is.
Yeah, I mean it's a different. I feel like a different world, you know, that whole Janis Joplin, her boob got out. It's like, there are bands that actively... There was some goth rock band, they were terrible, but they had like an on-stage sex show.
Didn't Hawkwind do that? They had like strippers on stage or something. Anastasia was one of them. I only know that through...
Anastasia, what, her hips don't lie. What?
I have no idea. Then there was the Dwarves, who had He Who Must Not Be Named, who was just a skinny guy with his lad out all the time, and a wrestling mask.
So when all this sort of like, a tit, you just go, just fuck off.
It's the human body. No one had a problem with like Michelangelo's David. Well, maybe it did cause uproar.
Apparently those, and I can't give you a source for this, but apparently those fig leaves that appear on a lot of statues were sort of put on later by prudes. Like,
by prudes?
Oh, yeah, we're just going to take this 500-year-old statue, we're just going to put this fig leaf on it because we're offended by its microscopic cock.
Do you know why they had micrococks?
Because it denoted intelligence.
That's right. Yep.
Because it was sort of seen to have a big penis was seen to be more natural, and therefore you were wild. Where if you have a small penis, you're tame and educated and of the elite.
Right. I was learning about Aristotle on You're Dead to Me, the BBC podcast. That's very interesting. He was an interesting guy.
Oh yeah.
Anyway, this is a music podcast, so let's have your riff of the week, because it sounds like this.
Rock star, coming up, rock star, coming up. Get what you want, not what you ask for. Sitting on money is what I stand for. It ain't that deep, the beat so shallow. Chose my path to walk a straight narrow. Mama broke days, trying to get something, a whole lot of nothing. All the big bucks, you can't play, yes, I'ma make them pay, yeah. Better wake up, cause the weeks they sleep. When the money talk, listen, it ain't cheap. Like I like the oil lawyer, I know what they wanna be. Kids look up to me, role model from the streets. All of that pride, I'm a rock.
When that hi-hat kicks in, it's pretty... I mean, when he starts rapping, it's pretty awesome. And then the hi-hat kicks in, it's like... It just... Really nice piece of production and ramping up. That is Danny Brown with Copycat from his new album. I can't remember what that's called. And
it's a mere detail.
It's a mere detail. And I have a lot of time for... I sort of give anything... And I have for a long time given anything Danny Brown a go, because he's always interesting.
I didn't realise. I'm just starting to realise how popular he is and how well known he is. So his new singles, which I don't think there's something of his that's A-listed on Six Music at the moment, like primetime shows. So this is with somebody else. So it's a collaboration, but as we don't do details, I couldn't tell you who it's a collaboration with.
Oh, he's got lots of people on his album that aren't him. You know, that's the hip hop world and the nu metal world. That's how they roll. Rolling, 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 rolling.
You know the lyrics. So, have you seen the video for Copycat by Danny Brown?
No.
Do you generally stay away from stuff like that? I mean, I always see them because I get the clips from YouTube and I prepare them.
I have all my history turned off on YouTube, and I just genuinely don't look at music videos. I miss MTV. I might have that on in the background these days, but I just listen to stuff on Bandcamp and Tidal generally.
Yeah, listen to Tidal or Six Music, but do tends to be after a few sherries that we'll kind of look up stuff on YouTube. It's not to see the video, it's to listen to the music. But the video for this one, there's a lot of people in a vehicle and none of them wearing seatbelts. I'll leave it at that. It's shocking.
Fuck. God. No seatbelts.
No seatbelts. And some of them are drinking alcoholic beverages.
In a car. No wonder America has so many problems with driving, if that's the sort of example that these young people, these
kind of
young
example
people
is
are
it?
around.
Yeah, well, the car also looks about 100 yards long. And has like poor lighting and all sorts. So I don't know how anyone could like read a book.
You wouldn't feel safe in that with that. I can't read it. You can read in a car. I can't read in a car.
Yeah, I've never had a problem with that. I know it makes a lot of people feel sick.
Yeah, it makes me feel sick. No problem on the train and car.
It's because they wobble. With my bandmate Hannah, she won't go in a car with me. Well, at least she doesn't like to because she says my driving makes her car sick. But she's a little bit younger than me, so she's got into her 40s. And I said, "Oh, is car sickness a problem?" She's like, "Never has been before." I'm like, bloody hell, my driving's that bad. Wobbling around the lanes of Suffolk.
I mean, when I was driving around us around America, you basically couldn't stay awake.
I
was that boring a driver, so safe. Oh no, we can't go through a red light.
It's always been a thing for me, and I thought it had come about through being a parent. So I can remember after becoming a parent, when my child was young, if I was in a car but wasn't piloting it, I just couldn't stay conscious because it's the one time and place in my life that I didn't have to be responsible for anything. But clearly I was like that before I became a parent. Mind you, we drove for 9 hours, you and I, between Washington and Boston, and it's just straight line.
Well,
get in a car, drive in a straight line for 9 hours, get out of car.
So it's like all of a sudden those video games from those early driving systems all of a sudden make sense when you're driving in America because there are no corners.
No.
And so the background never really changes. The mountains just get slightly closer.
Oh, and also everyone's on autopilot or auto cruise control, so you don't even overtake or anything. You just sit there.
I wish cruise control was more of a thing. And the thing is, America has all these things that they don't proficiently test people enough for them to actually use them correctly.
Are we still just talking about motoring, or does it go broader than that?
Oh, it's sex as well, obviously.
I shudder to think what tests you might have to go through before you're allowed to do that.
You didn't have to go through a test before you were allowed to have sex.
Well, I know your wedding was unusual.
No, the priest shows you where to put stuff in.
That's pretty much what happened in medieval times, isn't it?
Yeah. And then you get like, it's. I mean, how do you square that logic that the person who should be celibate is telling you how to procreate?
Medieval times, they wouldn't have been celibate. The celibacy in Catholicism wasn't an original thing. It was to stop. Oh God, this will end up in a clip, and I'll get slain. I was hearing something on a BBC documentary that...
Don't put the BBC on. They've got enough problems as it is at the moment.
What, Trump trying to sue them for $1 billion?
Based on the fact that he said he did say what they edited him to say, but only 38. There were 38 minutes between those two sentences. It's a bit like, I was thinking, but this is, sorry, going on a fucking tangent, but when in academia when you are quoting someone and you want to sort of cut out a load of text, you put a ... in the middle of it.
Ellipsis.
So yeah, and so what drove me a bit crazy was like basically. Okay, the BBC's editing sort of suggested that it was the same sentence or the same part of the speech, but at the same time, it was literally part of the same thing.
He still said it.
Yeah, he still said it.
I don't know what he said, actually. I don't really care, but I very much doubt afterwards he said, in Minecraft, or whatever it is people say to, like, they're like phrases you can say in YouTube videos to invalidate stuff.
I have to say, all this politics that's going on in the world at the moment would be amusing if it was in Minecraft.
Tell you what, let's move on from that and have my riff of the week.
Sure. So which new metal band was that?
It's not new metal. Well, it's new, as in it is not an old band, I think. No, came out on Third Man Records this year. So Third Man Records is that lad from White Stripes, isn't it? Jack Black.
Oh, yeah.
Jack White, rather.
Jack White.
Oh dear, I've got it all covered there. So it's a band called, I think it's Spitz, D.I.E.
Oh, I was listening to them yesterday, yeah. Another song.
But it's often
bouncy. They're bouncy, aren't they?
I love the production, but I've liked that kind of metal ever since The Sword. I just haven't heard much other metal done in exactly the same way.
That's interesting, because I would sort of like say that was like, frankly, like new metal adjacent.
Really?
At least the first riff that she's shouting over.
I wouldn't have seen that at all, but
it reminds me musically. I would say it was like, oh, I could see this sort of like Soulfly-ish in a way.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
not as low.
I wouldn't go the stoner sort of route.
The vocals remind me a bit of Amyl and the Sniffers. You know that band from Australia?
Yeah, I find them. My friend really likes them. I don't know. I just find them a bit grating.
I kind of. Do you know what?
It's one of those things of like punk for people who don't like punk.
I was going to say they're one of those bands that I kind of get why people think they're popular, but I don't get it themselves. And the theme of this podcast today is what, Dr. Sam?
It is music that we either own or appreciate, and we perform. There's a performative aspect to it, but we never listen to. Really, we never listen to. Well, we're doing pretty well considering we chatted for like 40 minutes beforehand.
Yeah, sorry, people on audio only. We just looked at the clock of attentiveness, which somebody did ask us about in one of our YouTube comments, and I explained it. So I don't want to tell you, that's not a very interesting anecdote, really, is it? So the theme.
Someone asked me a question,
and I answered it.
I answered them. Oh.
Shocking. Right, so here is your first choice, and I'm going to have to edit this episode. I'm going to have to edit this episode and take a word out, because otherwise we're not going to be able to talk about this song, but here it is. That's challenging for me.
Yeah, that's Flux of Pink Indians with the album, and I'm sorry, Andrew, but I
just say it slowly so that I can find it when I have to edit this.
The fucking ants treat us like pricks.
It's like an hour long or something, this album.
Yeah. It's wild and crazy and just like amazingly challenging piece of art from the anarcho-crusty band, the Flux of Pink Indians, and you know, like, I don't know, it's 60 minutes as a whole album, whole hour of just sort of noise. It was described in The Wire as rudimentary punk blasts are hard-panned, drenched in distortion, subject to scathing tape edits, and littered with a sampled footage of pornography, snatches of the BBC Radio 1 Steve Wright in the afternoon show. Segments about domestic violence flow into dispassionate recitations of injuries sustained by Falkland soldiers.
So there's a lot there.
There's a lot there, and it's an amazing piece of art, and I'm really, really happy that I found it in some second-hand shop, you know, remastered. I had to get the remastered CD version, and it was really cool to find it. And I've got like I'm fascinated with. I don't really like much anarcho-punk stuff. I find it all a bit. It's not that it's crusty. It's just like. It just sounds a bit shit to my ears.
So I nearly chose Crass as one of my choices for very, very similar reasons. That I get it. I know where they're coming from, and I like a lot of the things they tried and the envelope they pushed. But I'm not going to sit down with a glass of brandy and my smoking jacket and thoughtfully stroke my chin while I listen to Crass.
Exactly. It's like it's got a well-earned place on the shelf, but that well-earned place on the shelf does collect quite a lot of dust compared to a lot of other things.
So it's an hour long, and when it was released, it was a gatefold 2 LP thing. So you got 15 minutes, quick, turn it over, put it back on. Another 15 minutes, quick, turn it over, put it on. That's a lot of getting up and down.
Yeah.
Right. So,
but I mean, Maximum Rock and Roll on this bizarre and surprising double album, Flux alternates between strangely mixed high inflammatory hardcore attacks and bursts of industrial noise. Most of the material here is rather unpleasant listening, though the vitriolic lyrics and some of the studio effects are remarkably compelling. I'm not sure whether I like it or not, but it's certainly challenging. And it's basically a really angry Jackson Pollock painting.
That's a good way of describing it.
The
police in Manchester raided a record shop, Eastern Bloc Records, and seized the copies of this record under the Obscene Publications Act for indecent display.
Yeah,
it's kind of quite wild and exciting that was 1984, and they were like, no, this is too much.
Yeah, I mean. I think again, like as far as anarcho-punk, I have more time for this album than probably any other anarcho-punk release I've ever been subjected to, and that's because conceptually it's quite interesting and it's performed in a quite interesting way. I don't know if I've actually listened to a whole album of it. It just sounds like, but I would go and see someone trying to recreate something along these lines live in a second. I'd fucking love to see that.
Mm. Yeah,
but do I want to listen to it? Do I want to sit and listen to it? No. It's like, no.
I have got to send a quick message. So where do Subhumans, do they fit into the anarcho-punk thing?
Lyrically, they sound quite subhuman. Lyrically, they're quite on that anarcho sort of world. That's why I've always associated them with that. But they got picked up and they're celebrated by the Yankees, in the Fat Wrecks and
they did Live in a Dive, didn't they, Subhumans?
Yeah. And so and I've never listened to anything other than their first album. But the musicianship maybe a little bit better in points. I don't know.
Subhumans live are absolutely great. I saw them in a pub in Ipswich. I don't think they ever sort of really ascended into being a massive band. They're still going. And their newer albums stand up. They're good. They're really good. There you go. There's a smart bit of music journalism. They're really good.
I like this. I like it.
Right, let's move on to my first choice, which is this one.
So that's sex noise techno.
Sex noise techno, or sexto. Was that part of your exam before you got married?
Sexno.
Sexto.
No, I mean, this is why I had to retake the exam, because I couldn't get on with the soundtrack.
So that's. Do you know who it is? I reckon you could probably have a guess.
Gorillaz?
Kind of see why you'd say that. I think the quality of it is much, much, much higher than the Gorillaz.
I like the glitchy side of it. I think that's sort of like... I don't like... What I would say is, I don't know who it is, I don't particularly like the sounds, but I like the glitchiness of it. The glitchiness I find quite appealing. The sounds, some of them are quite appealing, but I think the board moans are more sexy than the... because it makes you want to try.
The board moans. Wow. That's the song's called Window Licker. Does that reveal anything to you?
Oh yeah, Aphex Twin.
Aphex Twin. So it kind of invented a genre, but certainly cemented it. And I've watched amazing videos, including one by Ben Jordan, about how he recorded this music, because that's a fairly modern Aphex Twin, 1999, but there's much, much older stuff that you listen to with the filter of modern music production and go, what's the big deal? That's easy to make music like that, but it certainly wasn't then. And then I realised I'm equating effort to worthiness, and I think that's probably an odd path to take.
I know, but there's also an aspect of like, I don't know, of if someone did it first, maybe they did it like. A lot of the time, the people who did something first did it better than the people who then emulated it. So yeah, I never Aphex Twin. So yeah, he sort of started a whole genre, and you have to give credit to that thing.
Just don't have to listen to it.
Yeah, I associate it quite a lot with Square Pusher, who was going to be on my list, because I've got quite a lot of Square Pusher stuff, and it should have probably been on my list. I've seen him live 2 or 3 times, I think 2 times. Incredible sort of live thing.
See, I'd like to see him live, but it's never occurred to me to seek out any of his music.
Yeah, well, my brother gave me some 1 or 2 of his albums, and then I wanted to, and I went for like, I can't remember what's supposed to be like the craziest ones. I always go for the craziest ones. It's like, to be honest, my main issue with Square Pusher is that it's a bit too jazz fusion for me, and I'm not a jazz fusion person. I don't like that.
It surprises me. I don't know why it surprises me that you don't like jazz fusion. So what do you think of like people like Thundercat?
I have a lot of time for it. I've got one of the albums like Flying Lotus, and that's crazy. Like, insane.
There's that one track, Flying Locust, Flying Locust, Kendrick Lamar, and Thundercat.
Yeah.
It's just probably, again, I've not listened to it for a long time. It's one of my favourite second halves of a song ever.
The album that they're on for Kendrick Lamar, he's, in my opinion, and this is going to piss off anybody who's into hip hop. I'm not that into hip hop, so it's not my thing. But what's the album that he did, which had George Clinton and?
I don't know. The big, massive first one was To Pimp a Butterfly.
Some noise just happened. I don't know. I have fucking idea what that was about.
Sound
How to Pimp a...
How many butterflies does it make to make a pint of butter? That wasn't what it was called. And also, I fucked up the delivery on that.
To Pimp a Butterfly, and that is an amazing album. And I don't, that was like, to me, that was the high point of experimentalism and hip hop of the time, mixed with actual commercial appeal.
Massive commercial appeal. That album was. It seemed at the time to just come out of thin air, just come from outer space. Giles Peterson was playing Kendrick Lamar probably 6 months before To Bum Vitfly, and he had been playing him for a while, more on the jazz, I guess, side of things. And I can remember all of a sudden he was like the biggest selling artist in America. It's like, shit, that kind of seemed to happen quickly.
Yeah, to go back to that thing of like, it's just a bit too jazz. Aphex Twin is all that sort of, a lot of that more experimental. It was a bit too less noisy for me. I like a bit more abrasiveness.
You quite like Venetian snares when I've put Venetian snares on, just for that kind of. But that's got better flow to me. So I love hip hop. I don't actually listen to hip hop very often, but obviously you've really got lyrical flow, or is it vocal flow? And Aphex Twin for me is too stuttery. It loses me. Whereas stuff like Venetian snares is nuts, but it keeps the flow. It pulls you along with it.
I watched last time I was on an aeroplane. I watched a documentary on my phone from the BBC about young people's grime music, and it's the stuff and how it started, because it all started around where me and my partner lived when we lived in London, and like literally, whereas end of the road where there is now a bakery was a record shop where was the first like grime record shop. Where they used to sell loads of the white label stuff. And I have to say, some of that... It's like, when people sort of play that stuff in snippets, I'm fucking all over it. The minute I sort of sit down and listen to it, my attention goes like, I don't know, I just don't... I have the same problem with, prog rock generally. And then there was it Questlove's Sly and the Family Stone, or Sly Stone documentary. And... the early stuff, the way it's produced for that documentary sounds fucking amazing. And I sit down and listen to the album and it's all a bit, I don't know, so much less, like, there for me.
The sort of being confused by the album. There was a guy I worked with very long time ago called Simon, who's sadly no longer with us. He'd worked and lived in Boston for years as... he was an English... he lectured in English at a university in Boston. I can't remember which one. Nor can I remember who he was a specialist in that guy who's got the same name as the main character in Quantum Leap.
Sam Beckett.
Sam Beckett. Yeah. So he specialised in that. So he was really, really into... when Stan came out, he was really excited by it. He was like, this is an epistical song. It's writing letters. This is how literature came about. And so he went out and bought the album. He was a man in his 50s, and he was in the record shop, and apparently the guy in HMV or whoever went, you're buying an Eminem album? And he's like, yeah, it's got Stan on it. He was like, are you sure? Are you sure you want to buy this? And he was like, yeah, I'm fascinated by this song. And he probably then started going on about how it's based on, it's a motive, a machine used in ancient literature and all this sort of stuff. And he got home and he said he sat with his family and he put the CD on. And I've not heard it, but he said it started like, and then a voice, you have bought an Eminem album. By buying this album, you are sucking Eminem's cock. And he was just like, or Dick, he was like, stop, eject CD, put it back in case, put it on the shelf, never look at again.
I remember when I was my parents went to America, leaving me and my brother. I can't remember where we were living. This is the very early days of the internet, so late 90s. And they said, what would you like from America? And I gave them a list of CDs. This is me as a teenager, 14 years old, probably getting into sort of like extreme metal and punk and stuff. And they went to a record shop in somewhere in New York, and they went, "Do you have any of these? Our son has asked for them." And they looked at them and went, "Are you sure you want your son to listen to this stuff?"
That's so cool. Knowing your parents, they probably would have gone, "Yeah."
Yeah. They'll probably go, "Okay, he's making the right choices."
Smart. Right, let's move on to your next choice. We are halfway through, at least according to the clock of inattentiveness. Oh, here it goes. This is Sam's choice. There's a lot of sexy noises on there. This is the sexy episode.
Sexy noise episode. Sexy episode. Not a bad idea for like music, sexy underground music
to get sexy to.
That was John Zorn, Erotico, commas, The Burglars.
Oh, so literally, it's in the title. I haven't even noticed that.
Yeah, from the album The Big Gundown, where he interprets, him and his band of musicians interpret Morricone music.
Oh, inventor of the radio. Is that Morricone?
No, this is the guy who did all the...
That was Marconi.
Marconi.
Little radio invention joke for you there.
Ennio Morricone, yes.
Yep.
The composer who was famous for the spaghetti western stuff. And it's a pretty wild album, and this is more representative of John Zorn than anything. Again, I will listen to probably his more... I have listened to the Naked City stuff quite a lot, to be fair. And some of the stuff he subsequently did with Mike Patton.
So remind me who he is again?
John Zorn is an avant-garde saxophonist who resides in New York City in the Americas, the Northern Americas, in one of them at least. And I think he's sort of like the postmodern jazz musician, because what he does is that he's not so much, and he does a lot of this sort of like strangled sax sound, which he's quite famous for, and he's not so much. I would argue, and I'm sure jazz people have an issue with this, but I would say he is sort of like the greatest example of postmodern jazz, because what a lot of his stuff is less about sort of a riff and then a solo and then a riff, or exploring the parameters of what it means to be in a space together all at the same time, sort of in a free jazz sort of style. And it's more about, I don't know, a lot of it is much more, and that this isn't his only stuff he does, but this sort of more this side of stuff, like the Morricone stuff, like he did an album of free jazz interpretations of like speed jazz interpretations of Ornette Coleman stuff. Ornette Coleman being very famous for being a pioneer of free jazz. They take these sort of 20-minute tracks and crush them down to like a minute and a half.
So like speed running jazz. That's a phrase. That's something I've never heard of before.
Speed running jazz, and it's like, it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, it's really a challenging listen. But what he does in stuff like The Naked City is that they take sort of ways of playing. I don't know. This is what big band jazz sounds like. This is what Western music sounds like. This is what, and they just squashed, and this is what some hardcore, grindcore stuff, and they just smashed them together into one sort of track. The song is really bad, not really the right one, and so it's really, he's a really interesting musician, but is he actually very, great fun and very easy to sort of sit down and listen to? Fuck no. And I guess this is a lot of it. Is sort of, whilst I love a lot of atonal and a lot of challenging music, there's also stuff that's just you don't want to play endlessly. It's more, it's quite chin strokey music, and I guess the question is like, really, what is the purpose of the chin strokey stuff?
It supports the other things, but yeah, putting it on, it can be a bit kind of.
No, Sam, no, that's wrong.
Again. Quite erotic.
Right, let's move on to my second choice, which is this one.
The prophets were written on the studio wall. Concert hall.
He rhymed studio wall with concert hall.
No, that's what stood out. That was the first problem you spotted with that. I'm guessing you know who that is.
70s rock band playing a bit of reggae, which just fucking. I'll staple my balls to the wall to say the only white band in the 70s who could really actually play anything regarding sort of Jamaican music were the Clash.
Oh no, I'd agree. I thought you were going to say something else then, but no, I'd agree entirely. And the difference for me is that the Clash were arguably living in the neighbourhoods that the music was a part. It was a part of society, part of their culture. Yeah. It had Don Letts doing reggae sets at punk gigs. It was like, they certainly weren't
Rush or Led Zeppelin in their mansions.
It took me until my 30s to realise just how terrible D.I.E. Maker by Led Zeppelin is. They're horrible. Like, what do they call it? Cod reggae.
It is cod reggae.
What's
the
cod?
Do they call it? Cod sort of denotes like not real. I don't know what the etymology of
cod. Cod is real. I've had it from the chippy several times.
No, it's not. It's been overfished. What you're having is actually mashed up rubber.
No, we always choose haddock because cod was overfished, so we stopped eating it. But that track. Before we move on, I was listening to We Dig Music, which is one of my favourite music podcasts, and I know they occasionally listen to this as well. So hello, Tracy. And they were talking about one of their friends has started a band that's become quite popular, and they've recorded a cover version of the entire album of Crack the Sky by Mastodon, but they've done it in a reggae style, and I wish I could remember what they're called, because it was something like Reggaetron or something like that.
Oh, there's people have done really good Dub Side of the Moon is a classic.
There was also Dread Zeppelin.
Yeah, my friend sent me the other day. What is it? Where is it? It is a what was it? It was someone reinterpreting And Justice for All by Metallica as a 70s funk album. Well, it's more disco, but it's quite fun. But it's like,
so I think does it survive past the smirk you get at the idea of it? Does it actually stand up to like being genuinely listenable?
Do you want to listen to it again?
Would you listen to it twice?
Yeah, I mean, COD. So COD, I don't know what. I was trying to struggle to find the. So COD denotes sort of inauthenticness, but weirdly for Google, this is why you can't trust Google AI. The term COD can refer to the video game franchise Call of Duty or the fish, and whether it is considered authentic depends on the context.
Hang on, I might have just figured out the etymology of this, and I'm going to interrupt you in case of what you're just about to say. So you think codpiece was a big fake willy?
Ah.
So do you think there's a root in the... Now, is it entomology or is that study of insects?
Etymology is the study of language, study of words, origins.
There you go. There's a link you never thought you'd hear between Rush and Henry VIII's penis.
I'm pretty sure they've probably written a whole fucking opera cycle based on Henry VIII's penis.
Rick Parfitt wrote one about Henry VIII's wives. Not Rick Parfitt, Rick Wakeman.
Yeah, he probably... Yeah.
It's just one of those things that I remember reading about it, and like Henry VIII's wife, they toured it, like stadiums and stuff. You're like, for one thing, why have I never heard it? And why was it so popular? At what age, early 70s, we're going to do a musical prog album about Henry VI's wives. Fuck it, go for it. Hey, look, we've sold millions of copies. And then instantly be forgotten.
Well, that was an interesting thing. I was listening to a documentary about Walt Disney, and they were talking about how game-changing Snow White was when it came out in the 1930s. And like, how many films from the 1930s are still talked about, let alone watched? And you know, Snow White is amongst a very, very small number.
I think even just technologically, it must have been mind-blowing. We grew up taking kind of cartoons for granted, and our children certainly will, even with digital animation.
Well, my kid's really into like classic stuff at the moment. He keeps asking to play classic Mario or classic Sonic.
Does he actually call it classic Sonic, though?
No, because just trying to get the information into him. He calls it old Sonic. Old Mario.
Old Sonic. Oh, man. That makes me
stuff.
smile.
Yeah.
Right, here's your next choice.
Continuing our exotic theme.
How do you even play like that? It's just what? Do you have to get yourself excited? Or, drink loads of coffee? So who was
that? Was the Tariff the High Dukes, the return of the magic horses.
It does sound like magic horses.
But this is sort of like, there was some point in the early 2000s, there was a bit of a fashion, I would say, in sort of Brighton at least, for...
You've got a lot of beeping going on over there.
Yeah.
You're not on fire, are you?
No, stop.
Great timing there. All right, Sam's got to go and sort his beeping. While he's gone, what should we ask him when he comes back? Oh, I heard an abbreviated beep there, so hopefully that's fixed. It's always a bit noisier. Considering I'm in a factory, it's always a bit noisier where Sam is.
So yeah, there was a bit of a fashion in the early 2000s, at least in Brighton.
You got to tell us what the beep was.
Dishwasher.
Exciting times.
I'm not paid enough to not run my dishwasher while we do this.
Not paid at all. So Tariff the High
Dukes.
High Dukes.
High Dokes. And they released a load of, there's a few albums, and there was a documentary, I think it was a documentary called Band of Gypsies, and that the fine fellow who's never done anything seemingly questionable in his life, called Johnny Depp, was part of, and they had this sort of a real moment, and they also played. I don't know if it was After Hydrix, but one of these bands also played an ATP, the first ATP I went to, which was the Melvins one, the Melvins and Mike Patton one. And there's footage of them sort of just wandering around, was it Butlins, playing outside, because they got given like a 40-minute set, and they normally play at least a couple of hours when they're home.
We saw that another time at. I don't know if it was the same band. We saw it another time at ATP. The band made it. I think they were Serbian though, and they made it till about 1 a.m. ATP, or the organisers, switched off the PA, and they just kind of shrugged and carried on. Like, don't need a PA. I know I've mentioned it before on here, so I thought I'd touch on that. It confused me when I saw the Band of Gypsies connection, because I'm pretty sure that was Jimi Hendrix's band after the Jimi Hendrix Experience.
I think it was. They released an album. Band of Gypsies, and I mean, the music's great. I just never listened to it. It's like, but it sort of denotes like world music generally. I've got a few pieces from world music. If you know Brighton in the UK, I'm not talking about Brighton Beach in the New Yorks. If you know Brighton in the UK at all, you'll know that people who are from there, not the fucking London arseholes who move there and price everybody else out. But if you, let's ignore the fact that I was born in London.
Yeah, I was going to say, you did the other thing, though. You moved from Brighton to London.
Yeah.
I don't think you priced anyone out of London, Sam.
No. Well, maybe. So Brighton, when I lived there, when it was cool, when it was nice, was full of sort of aging hippies and old punks and crackheads, and everybody loved each other.
All the friendly crackheads.
And but therefore sort of world music sort of had a bit of an audience there, and so you get these quite interesting bands coming through. And on the world music side, I mean, I've got a thing called what's it, Dob Akin something, I can't remember. It's someone playing. They're from the northern island of Japan, the northmost island of Japan, and they are playing their people's, the indigenous people of that island. They're playing their folk music over a dub sort of music thing. And if you go to that sort of thing, and you need to smoke some weed.
I know you're not much of a BBC radio fan, but there's someone called Jam Supernova.
BBC Three. I got BBC Three.
Somebody called on Saturday afternoons. Someone called Jam Supernova, and she's on before Giles Peterson. Giles Peterson touches on world music. He sort of tends to go through sort of phases of being very jazzy or very world musicy. Jam Supernova does a really interesting thing where she actually goes to places like Peru or Uganda. Not what I would naturally think of as the usual world music places, and actually spends time in the clubs and getting to know the musicians and bringing some of that music back and playing it on her show. And I find it fascinating. So I find it so interesting how different so much music can be, whilst it still is the same enough to have that connection to me as someone who grew up in the UK.
Yeah. It's an international language, man. Why can't we just love one another and rub people inappropriately occasionally?
Right.
It's an erotic episode, man.
I'm going to play my third choice.
From a couple of lesser than fives. What were we called?
Sub fives.
Sub fives.
To be fair, that wasn't you on that clip, it was Dan Callis. So you might have raised the average.
no picnic.
So this is the Minutemen with This Ain't No Picnic. Now, I think we've come close to this before, like bands that we should love, but Minutemen, absolutely respect them. I mean, I deeply respect them, and especially Mike Watt. I've got friends who have hung out with him, and I just wish I liked the Minutemen. I've tried. In fact, to the extent I before this episode, I tried to find the clip that I used on the country music episode years ago of Otto from The Simpsons going, "I tried, oh Lord, how I did try." But it's just I don't know, it's a bit much.
Yeah, I don't think I got them for ages after having been exposed to them, frankly. And then there was maybe there's an aspect. I sometimes think this of the music I listen to. There's a Stockholm syndrome aspect that, and which I guess some people go, that's not how fucking Stockholm syndrome works. But there's
they lock
something
in a room and play you alt jazz post punk from the early 80s.
I'm addicted to challenging music, and but I also want something that's vaguely listenable to, but also challenging at the same time. Minutemen are a very good example of that. Also, I don't know. There's a few songs that have just like that are gateway drugs, if you will, into them. But frankly, if someone said to me, "Would you rather put on a Fire Hose," which is Mike Watt and Ed Crawford and George Hurley's subsequent band after D. Boon had a car crash and died. Would I rather listen to Fire Hose or Minutemen? And this might be sacrilegious to a lot of people, but fuck you. I'd rather listen to Fire Hose because they wrote really good songs, and it was a bit more poppy and it was a bit more accessible. The as an overall thing, and the production was better as well. And I love the Minutemen stuff, but is it necessarily always fun to listen to? And is it? Not really. No.
I think the mistake I made was using Nickels on the Dime as my jumping in point.
Yeah,
it's too much. There's too much. There's too much to absorb.
Yeah, I mean that's like, to me, in a way, This Ain't No Picnic is like the only pop song on it, almost, not completely, but it's to me that's sort of like, oh, this is the hook. This is something. At that point you're like 30 tracks in.
That wasn't the thing that surprised me most listening to Nickels on the Dime. It's when partway through the album the theme to Jackass comes on.
Oh yeah.
Which is, I bloody hope Mike Watt and the estate of Boone, D. Boone, got some pennies for that.
I'm sure it's how he finances most of his life these days.
And mind you, the stuff with the Stooges, he would have just been paid, as a session musician. I guess he didn't contribute towards the writing of anything with the Stooges that I know of.
Well, he might have done with the last few albums. Well, he was at least the last album he's on it.
No, I just thought it was just a touring kind of. No, I wouldn't know. You would know better than me. I'm surprised I even know he was in the Stooges. Right, look at the inattentive clock. We have a little sliver of red left. So
I'm sorry about this one.
I'm going to play. I'm going to explain this after we've played it. So, for those just on audio, for the video, Sam and I both took our headphones off while that track played. So sorry you had to listen to it. We didn't.
That was Merzbow with Woodpecker #2, and would
Do you know
believe...
what? Just before we go on, would you believe that's the second time Merzbow has been played in the last 3 episodes?
Oh,
So
well,
Martin Wiskin chose Woodpecker Part 1 2 episodes ago to discuss the fact that he was at a Merzbow gig and there were people cleaning their teeth as part of their enjoyment of it.
I mean, I saw that Merzbow is playing Helsinki in the new year, and I was like, oh, I should go. And it's like, I frankly cannot think that I would enjoy myself for an hour, considering that...
For an hour?
I don't know, 3 hours, however long he's going to be sat
sat
on a distortion pedal, yeah. It just, I mean, talking about Jackson Pollock, this is just, to my ears, it is just sort of white noise filtered to be harsh.
Oh, the only thing I'd say, on record, it's a bit like Sunno for me. Wouldn't bother on record. Wouldn't bother in the slightest. But that is quite a common type of sound. A friend of mine, Jack Hagley, calls it analog soup. It's quite a normal sound at a noise gig. And it's very different hearing it through headphones to it is being in a room with 20 other people that's maybe 3 meters by 3 meters in the dark with hardly any lights, and it being so loud it blurs your vision. And crucially, no one ever does that for more than about 10 or 12 minutes. So you don't have to tolerate a lot. And it can be quite a visceral experience. It can be sort of strangely emotional, actually. But listening to it on record, nah.
Yeah, I mean, he's playing at a venue that... Where is it?
It has to be like organ punishingly loud. It has to adjust your blood pressure and empty your bowels style loud. You're not going to get that at the concert hall.
We're not going to be in Helsinki anyway that day. Never mind.
So yes,
but I mean, I just I would go and see him in a second, as part of a ATP lineup. I'd be really excited to see Merzbow on it, but going for itself and for the sake of it, yeah, my and also that venue doesn't have very good beer, so
there you go, that settles it. All right, here's my last choice.
So good. Oh my god. That fucking guitar solo. He's so...
I almost enjoyed that a little tiny bit. So that was... Who was that, Dr. Sam?
That was Primus. And I came.
Sorry. That didn't sink in immediately there. Sorry for that. Super, clipped, loud laugh from me there. Primus, I like what they do. I get what they do.
It's okay not to like Primus and be okay with what they do. I don't understand how I get how the voice is challenging, but I don't get how the music is as challenging as people think it is. But also, they are probably one of the weirdest bands to have ever graced mainstream stages. And I think this might be true. In the first 10... In the 90s, I think they may have been the only band that played both Lollapalooza and Ozfest.
That's fairly wild. They were massive. Friends of ours who used to live next door talk about Primus, and they were really into sort of the top end of what was still just about indie at the time, before the indie just became the mainstream. And... As a link back to our last episode, which was musicians in films that weren't about them, Primus have quite a long list of appearances in films. So they're in Bill and Ted's Bogus Journey. And then their music was used in others. But yeah, they're a big band.
Yeah, they're massive. They had I remember when I first bought Sailing the Seas with Cheese, which was their big album and it had a sticker on it saying it hit number 2 in America. You think how weird that music is to hit number 2?
It's wild. And unfortunately, we haven't got time to talk about the real reason Rick Parfitt will never go back to Paris, but a part of it might be that he's been dead for years.
Damon Albarn's trousers, terrible.
What was the other thing I said?
No
idea. Right, anyway, that's it for this episode. So, thanks for listening. Please like, subscribe, and give a cat a little stroke. You got anything to say, Sam?
I mean, it's all erotic, isn't it?
It's all